This week on Three Questions with Corey Kareem.
I'm just going to use a word. What do you think our biggest challenges or the most common setback that you see when you sit down or have conversations with different Black men that are trying to get out of whatever that situation is for them?
Culture. Culture is our biggest setback and it's our biggest advancement.
Clockwise, 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 clockwise. Never turn back. Only go clockwise. Never go back.
Now, before we get started with this beautiful conversation, please help a brother out and click on that follow button on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Enjoy the conversation.
Welcome back, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Three Questions with Corey Kareem, the podcast where we sit down with some amazing people who are doing some amazing things. And that's right, you guessed it. We ask them 3 questions, sometimes 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I know, I read the comments. But rather than just talk about their wins or their successes, we start the conversation around their failures, more specifically, the lessons that they learned from those individual experiences. So with that being said, my next guest is no stranger to the podcast. He's a visionary entrepreneur, a mindset coach. He's actually my mindset coach. And he's also the host of the Attraction Mindset podcast. He's best known for having a unique balance between delving into cognitive psychology and transforming knowledge into business success. From the streets of Brooklyn, New York, where Brooklyn at, to leadership in the Marine Corps, to now running a successful coaching and video production business in sunny Miami, Florida. Welcome to Miami. I love it. So I want to welcome back Mr. Darian Rich Richardson, a.k.a. Mastermind Rich, a.k.a. Moneybag Rich. Welcome back to the podcast, brother.
Yo, CK, appreciate you having me on the podcast again. Not one time, but 2. That makes me feel special. We did virtual the first time, but now it's live and direct, and the vibe is already just way better. So I know this conversation is going to be crazy.
So guys, if you've seen this on IG, TikTok, YouTube, you notice I'm in a nice, beautiful studio right now because Rich has been so gracious to allow me to use his studio, his space. So I got to thank you, brother, for extending out your platform space to me. And you got to see me. I got the shades on right now because Rich came in here with the shades. I'm in Miami. This is how they do it. Everyone wears shades. So I'm just trying to match the vibe, bro.
Absolutely. It's only right.
All right. So let's get into this. So Rich, last time you were on, we talked about some of the struggles you went through early on in your life when you were a teenager, when you were a young adult, from being shot to, couch surfing, sleeping at different friends' homes and things of that nature. This time around, I would love it if you could share one of your biggest entrepreneurial or business struggles, specifically what happened, how'd you overcome it, and most importantly, what did you learn from it?
One of my biggest entrepreneurial struggles in the beginning or now?
Any of them.
So, I'll keep it simple and start from the beginning. In the beginning, when you start with entrepreneurship, one of the biggest struggles you have is digital deluge. And so digital deluge right now, for the people who don't understand what that is just overcompensation of information. We live in a day and age where there's a lot to learn and a lot to do. And so I didn't know what I wanted to do. And that was the biggest setback for me as an entrepreneur, because after I got out the military in 2016, I never went back to a 9-to-5. And so it was always trying my hand at something. And I understand the mindset of consistency. And when I met Dan in 2018, it was like, hey, I was in front of the camera and I was getting paid to be in front of the camera, and I could have taken the acting route, but I asked the camera people like, hey, how much are you getting paid versus how much I'm getting paid? And they said, oh, this is a small shoot, about 40,000. And I was getting paid to run around for 6 hours for $250. And so it didn't make sense to me. And so when I started to double down on, you aren't missing out on anything. A lot of people tell you, oh, you got to get into real estate. You got to get into crypto. You got to get into credit. You got to get into this and that. And, really me hearing that conversation with, it was the director for Rick Ross. He used to be his main director, Dre Films. And he was like, bro, just do what you like. You're not missing out on anything. there's always going to be a next Bitcoin. There's always going to be another GameStop. There's always going to be another, fill in the blank. And history repeats itself in a lot of different ways. And once I really understood that as an entrepreneur, I started, putting on my blockers. And when I put those on, entrepreneurship became super easy. Right. I got really good at making 6 figures. And then I just started doing that with multiple companies.
Right. No, I love that. So why do you think, let me take a step back here. Do you feel like a lot of people are chasing other people's dreams? And if so, why do you think that's happening?
I feel like a lot of people are chasing acceptance.
Elaborate.
I don't feel like, because other people don't even know their own dreams. They know the image that's put in their head. And because we think we have an image that's put in our head, most people don't understand how powerful the subconscious mind is. And so when you start diving into the world of psychology, there's a name that comes up, Elizabeth Loftus. Elizabeth Loftus, in the early 1990s, she used to conduct psychotherapy tests where she would create scenarios with individuals over and over again in their sessions. This is all real. You can go look this up. And things that never happened in their life, tied them up to I think it's a sonogram where you got to tell the truth or whatever.
Right.
A lie detector, basically.
Yeah.
And they became real for these people. Things that never happened, drug abuse, sexual trauma, all type of things. And they would reenact it or regurgitate it as if it really happened in their life. And you couldn't tell them, no, it actually didn't happen, because that's where their subconscious started to process things. And so when it comes to our dreams and people thinking about reality for a lot of different stuff, people think that what they're thinking of is their actual reality of what they're meant to do as far as passion or as far as profession. But that's not actually true. And so I think what most people are chasing is acceptance.
Acceptance. So how does one authentically find what they're meant to do on this planet? Is there like a mental exercise they need to go through, or like what? How does someone get on that path at least?
It's just one question, and I'm asking to you.
Yeah.
If money didn't matter in this world, what would you do?
Right. If money didn't matter in this world, I'd be doing this 24/7, 365.
And so this is your passion route. When I ask a lot of other people that question, they might make a lot of money in what they do, but I ask, there's 2 ways to ask it. Did you see yourself doing this when you grew up? Or, what would you do if money didn't matter? And people answer differently. And I say, you should probably get to that path some way, somehow, because that is aligned with what you're passionate about. That's what real dreams happen. The dreams that we remember are only in REM state. And so those aren't, like our real dreams. Our real dreams are the ones that we don't remember, are the ones that we have more so a feeling for, where we start to get deja vu when we enter our passion category.
I love that, man. Question number 1, and I'm ready getting the gems early. Okay. So being a mindset coach, let's talk about mindset for a second. Why a mindset coach and not a business coach? And what's the difference for my audience, for my listeners?
So a mindset coach is, first, the difference between a mindset coach and a business coach is a mindset coach is going to help you along the way. A business coach is going to a great degree, do it for you along the way, which is why business coaches on just a global scale cost more. You know what I'm saying? And I run into a lot of business coaching. They're like, oh, that's all you charge? And I said, yes, because my methods don't work if they don't do the work. I'm not doing the work for them. I never want to ever take responsibility for somebody's path in life, because if you let people do what they want to do, you'll see what they want to do. And I'm only here to provide steps for you to get to the next level, steps for you to create a system, steps for you to create a structure, but it all implements on you actually executing. And I'm one of the old school people I would rather do things the harder way than the easy way, because it builds grit, and that goes back to the saying, tough times create tough men create good times create weak men create tough times. And so if we live in that continuum that constantly goes around and round, what makes the difference between somebody that is teaching you and somebody that's doing it for you? Yeah, you could pay me to do it for you, but will you have really learned? Right. When you die, will your company still be the same? When you run out of money, will your company still be the same? There's a big difference between that, because I might teach you something for one industry category, but there's a difference between market research and industry research. And so if you come to me with a category, let's say podcasting, we'll dive into the world of podcasting, but then we'll also dive into general market research of what that means and integrate it with podcasting. But because we increase this part of the individual, no matter what other company you start from the beginning, you'll never have to go through that level of coaching again. When you do business coaching, they're industry specific. There is no extra market research on top of that. And so you finish that business, you grow out of it, you don't like it, whatever, that's it. You got to start over again when you get to a new industry. And that's the biggest difference between the two.
Right. So why coaching for you? Why did you choose that as a lane to get into?
And so I didn't really know what my passion was at first until it came to leadership. And, you know, I would lead people for free. And I do lead people for free. And, you know, it really started to become apparent when this homeless guy, Raw, that we met not too long ago. And everybody was looking at me crazy because I took him in and I didn't think any second thought about it. And it instantly became a I want to help mission, not I didn't post it on social media or anything like that, but I gave this man money out of my pocket, you know, and I took him to other Black businesses because he was a broken down Black man. And in him seeing the power of Black superiority as far as like business goes, I took him to a Black, clothing shop and they gave him clothes out of the strength of themselves. I took him to, a Black run, brunch. So he got to eat and get that kind of vibe. And he's like, yo, Rich, you around some real powerful Black men. Mm-hmm. And he had went to prison for maybe like 12, 13 years. And the system, if anybody knows anything about Florida and why it keeps you broke also is because he didn't do the full time, but they charge you for the full time. And so they basically charge you for your rack. And when they charge you for your rack, if you get out early, you still have to pay the full time. So let's say you get out in 7, 8 years, right. You still have to pay for the 12. And that automatically goes into wage garnishment, all of that stuff. And Crazy. It sets you back. And not only that, but then you have the marks of a felon on here and there and whatever. And so it's a lot easier to slip into unconscious homelessness than it is to get back on your feet because you have ticks going against you on record, but now you also have ticks going against you financially as soon as you come out. And there's really no gap. And then especially if you don't have family or friend support, his mom killed his father when he was younger. And then she, went to jail herself for more than half of his life. And so there's no direction. And so in circumstances like that, environment does become reality for you. Right. And that was his name, I guess, in a sense, is Raw. His real name is Randolph. But, he started to see more of himself again. And he was like, yo, I can rap. I could do this and that. I brought him around and he was a good guy. He just had a lot of bad choices. And so the product of who you choose to feed your mindset is super strong because this man, to everybody else out there, he's one of those homeless individuals that you would see walk around with your shirt off and you might want to cross the block because he might swing at you like he was that angry guy. And even when I had met him, it was him just trying to ask for work. It wasn't him asking for money. And he got frustrated because he's like, these motherfuckers feel like I'm trying to ask for money. Nobody want to listen to me. Like, I just want to work for something. I'm willing to work for it. And when you have people saying that, that means they're not over the edge yet. And if we work as a community to bring people back, because it's real. I was homeless for 2 years at one point in my life. I was way younger and I didn't have to deal with a lot of that or prison or anything like that. But it's real to get derailed and it's real to need help and not know how to ask for it. This is June men's mental health month, and conversations between men by itself alone are definitely not had as much as they need to, but between Black men is even more scarce and really opening up that level of vulnerability. And so being a leader, naturally hearing him say that, me standing in front of the restaurant, I said, what can you do, bro? Right.
So you bring up a couple good points. Being that it's mental health awareness month for men, let's talk specifically about the Black community for a second. What do you think as a person that is a coach for a variety of different people, but let's keep it specific to Black men. What do you think our biggest, I don't know how to frame it, but I'm just going to use a word. What do you think our biggest challenges or the most common setback that you see when you sit down or have conversations with different Black men that are trying to get out of whatever that situation is for them?
Culture. Culture is our biggest setback, and it's our biggest advancement.
Culture.
Mm-hmm.
Elaborate. I know what you mean, but for my audience.
And so culture is where it keeps us, man, we don't do that. Yo, we don't act like that. Yo, we're not supposed to be that way. Yo, we're not supposed to do that. But then culture also separates us from the rest of the world. And so it's like, how can you live with culture? How can you live without it at the same time? Culture has to change, and it hasn't changed enough to where we have that representation. And then you have the outside factors that are blocking us out. When you look up, if you type in Black Panther now on Google, the movie's going to pop up. That was made by Marvel. That was made by white people. You know what I'm saying? The Black Panther Party doesn't pop up anymore. It's now suppressed in a different kind of way. And so the active Black men that were doing the leadership things are being suppressed. One of the top guys right now, Rizza Islam, he has had his social media deleted 4 or 5 different times. You know, you have the 19 Keys. They go off on a little bit of a different spectrum, but, you know, community in general doesn't have the advocation for a different type of Black love when it comes to man, not in a sexual way. We live in an over-sexualized generation where telling another man, bro, I appreciate you. I love you. I actually care about you. Doesn't happen.
I like it. No, and I agree with you too, because I just think about, like, I had this conversation with somebody else a while back. We always say things like, you know, family's important to us, but then we'll go out to, let's say, like a club setting, right? It's crowded in there. Someone steps on your shoes, and you're willing to fight with this man because he stepped on your shoes, and you're willing to risk your life over an incident that starts like that. But you also just say family's everything, right? So when you talk about culture is both something that, you know, brings us forward, but at the same time holds us back. I think about those things, the things that we give into is crazy sometimes. Like the 100%. Things that we're willing to die for, right? It's 100%. Crazy sometimes. Like, I'm like, dude, it's not that serious.
100%. Now, I will say in some instances, you know, we still need to understand there's hierarchy.
For sure.
And so with hierarchy comes stature, which is why I no longer, you know, go to as many public events like that. Right. I don't make myself super accessible to a standard audience.
Right.
Sometimes I'll pop out and it's cool. I'll have the conversations, I'll do whatever, but most of the times, not only does that end up turning into a free consultation session, but it also just turns into, you know, the mindset or the thought process of, oh yeah, I know him. We're on equal footing. And we have to understand who becomes these pivotal characters, because that's what we are. This is a role for me. This is not my everyday personality. And this is what everybody should develop. When you go outside, you have to have that kind of character to dive into. And so for you, that might be Corey Kareem. You know, you go out Corey Kareem, cool. I go out Rich, as my full name is Darian Richardson. How many people actually call me Darian? Not a lot of people. You know what I'm saying? Until maybe this year, not a lot of people even knew that was my name. You know, I'll say it to them and they'll be like, what? Your name start with a D? I'm like, yeah, man, don't worry. You know what I'm saying? But creating that alter ego, which is why even a lot of celebrities do it. When you look at Beyonce with Sasha Fierce, when she's trying to promote something in that kind of way, she has to become that person. And so for me, Moneybag Rich, Mastermind Rich are 2 different versions, but they're both rich. And then Darian is myself. Darian operates completely different from my social media. Darian is introvert as hell. I like to play video games. I like to stay inside. I don't even like people. I don't like having conversations. Darian is not the podcast host. Darian is not the coach. Darian is not whatever. Darian wants to be in a bubble, go have a farm. I've bought farmland. Like Darian wants to go off grid. But Rich understands longevity, and Rich is trying to build generational wealth. And so existing with both of those people at the same time is how we contain that.
So you think it's necessary to kind of have like a dual personality?
100%. Because that's how you avoid, imposter syndrome as well. Because you have to develop that person in it. When you look at anybody's book, when you look at anybody's story, when you look at anybody's pathway, you know, it's the painted picture that they have, and they use it prevalently in music. You know, Morgan Freeman has an interview talking about 21 Savage. He's like, bro, 21 Savage is one of the nicest guys I know, but I also don't call him 21 Savage. 21 Savage is his rapper name. 21 Savage is his stage presence.
Yeah.
Same thing with a Drake. You know, Drake, that's not his regular name. That's not Aubrey. You know what I'm saying? And so people have to also remember that these people are not who they are, and they don't need to be, because that's their image for a public light. Who they are behind closed doors, unless you're personal with them, you may or may not never know.
Right. And I think that's where the fans, the audience, we get that mixed up, because, you know, you're bringing up the Drake example, the question that some may counter with, they believe Kendrick is Kendrick. The Kendrick that we see is who the Kendrick is behind closed doors. But there's probably there's a variation to probably what we normally see on stage.
Facts.
Yeah. So I want to give you a scenario, right? So let's just say I'm in a rut. Like, I feel stuck either in my career or business, or maybe just in life in general. If that was my situation, what are 1 to 3 mindset hacks you would coach me on to get myself out of that rut?
1 to 3 mindset hacks. I would ask, do you want motivation? Do you want mindset? Or do you want me to just listen to you?
Are any one of those better than the other?
They're all their own. You know, it depends on how that individual feels, because some people want to be motivated. Some people need that upfront. Hey, I need you to talk life into me right now. I'm on the ledge of this building. You need to get me off the ledge right now. Cool. That's where motivation might come in. Now, if we go to mindset, that's long term. We're going against the system. We've gone to high school. We've gone to college. We've gone to middle school. We've gone to all of these things. I didn't go to high school or middle school at the same time, but I guarantee you on the top of your paper, you wrote what?
My name.
Your name, the date, the class. It's systematic. Everything is systematic. And so for mindset, we have to undo systematic things, and that comes in years. And so a 6-month coaching, 1 year coaching, it can only break the surface of the ice, but the life goes on. You know what I'm saying? And there's way more time we have to spend going against the grain than not. And then if they want just an ear to listen, sometimes people need to just get things off their chest.
Right.
And they need to release and have somebody that is willing not to just solve their problems up front, but just hear them and feel them with them, understand them, and just, you know, be empathetic in the way of, I don't know what you're going through, or I might relate to what you're going through, but I'm here for you in any way that you need me to be.
Right, right. And so on that, I know when I had the conversation with Brendan, we were talking about people getting stuck. So I'd love to get your POV is, why do you feel people get stuck? I know it could be for a variety of reasons, but if you had to think of like a commonality about why people get stuck, whether that be career, business, relationship, etc.
People only get stuck because they don't know how to change. That's it.
Don't know how to change or don't want to change?
Don't know how to change. You know, because if you really knew how to change, you would want to. Nobody wants to be the worst version of themselves. Not a single person on this planet.
So you don't think someone could be afraid of what that change could look like, or to go through the work?
What is fear? Fear is the unknown, right?
For sure.
That's it. And so it's just literally them not knowing. If you really knew, like this is why when people say, if you could talk to yourself, you know, 10 years ago with what you know now, you would be telling yourself things that you know for sure. And so that's just knowing the unknown. So there can be no fear if you really know what a pathway is, which is why I'm heavy on research, which is why I'm heavy on experience, which is why I'm heavy on just getting into certain situations, and change only comes when you actually know what you want to do.
Well said. Well, you guys can see why he's my mindset coach, right? I try to throw him for a loop. My man just gave me the Neo Matrix. So let's talk mindset traps or mind traps. What do you believe are the top 3 most common mind traps that people fall victim to?
top 3 most common mind traps that people fall victim to.
Based on your coaching experience.
They need friends and family to support. That's number 1.
They need friends and family for support.
Yep. They need friends and family for support. Number 2, are we talking business or just in general?
In general.
Okay. Number 2 would be it costs money to do a lot of things. It does, but it doesn't have to cost your money to do a lot of things, you know. And number 3, I would say mindset traps is a lot of people underestimate and overestimate time at the same time, because time is a continuum where time is forever, but yet we only have personally 24 hours in a day.
Right.
Yet we only have personally, on average, life expectancy for a male 86 years of life.
Mm-hmm.
But life still goes on after us. And so we're dealing with infinite time and constricted time at the same time.
Even a little bit less if you're a black male. I think it's in the 70s.
Yep.
Right? Mm-hmm. But no, you bring up a good point about the time. I think is either Warren Buffett or Billy Gates. He said most people overestimate what they can accomplish in a year and underestimate what they can accomplish in 3 to 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I hear you on that one. So before we go, I want to pivot to social media for a second here. I'm going to do a hard pivot. Because I discovered since working with you that you're a bit of a social media guru. Who knew? This guy knows it all, right? Apparently. So with that in mind, I would love it if you could share the top 3 metrics we should be looking at if we're trying to grow our account, and the top 3 hacks we can use today to grow our accounts.
So first and foremost, you know, for the people who aren't here, we actually have a live event going on tonight and tomorrow. And this is actually part of what I'm going to talk about tomorrow. You know, Audience Growth Tour. You know, one of the biggest metrics you have to understand is small brands are conceited.
Say it again. Small brands are
conceited. Most people who start a business are conceited. And what I mean by that is most people cannot see business past themselves. You have to let go of what you want, what you need, whatever you are, because when we're born, and this whole country is a corporation by itself.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we birth our business, it's given an EIN. That is its own person, period. And it doesn't start off like humans do. It's not a baby. You know what I'm saying? That's a grown ass man. You know what I'm saying? And so that grown ass man has the ability to pull weight, make decisions in a certain type of way. Will he need your help? Absolutely. But where most people get conceited at is they put themselves and the current knowledge that they have into this business, and that business stays at right where that knowledge is. And so understanding market research is one of the biggest metrics that you should know. And so one of the bigger market research is, and people can go look this up, there are 3.4 billion users on Facebook actively. I'm going to talk about Facebook and Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
3.4 billion users in total on Facebook. Per month, there's 2.2 billion users on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
1.6 billion of those users per month are fake accounts. Now, why those are fake accounts? Because of the influencer society that we've built up now. People are shallow individuals.
Right.
They think you need likes. They think you need a crazy amount of engagement. They think you need a crazy amount of views. They think you need a crazy amount of followers. And those aren't the actual metrics at all. And so the same thing is for Instagram. Instagram has around 2.2 billion total. It's less than Facebook. But half of that are also fake accounts. More than half of that are also fake accounts. And so when we take this into consideration, you know, if you were to pull out your phone right now, can you message or hit up 1,000 people to fill a room?
I could.
Okay.
I don't know if they would actually show up though.
Yeah.
But I can message 1,000 people. That part.
Message that. Can you do 2,000?
Oof, that might be a little tough, but I have about 2,000 contacts.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about 3?
No.
All right. So 3,000 in a human to human interaction.
Yeah.
You couldn't do. So now how are we leveraging this on Instagram or Facebook or social media? People are seeing 10K, 15K, 100K, 50K, 1 million. You don't interact with all these people. You don't even do it in real life. And people think the two correlate. And so you're really just not good at monetizing the audience that you do have. And so you don't need to have a lot of followers to monetize, because the monetization comes from what Brendan said, productizing.
Right.
Productizing and putting certain content out. You don't need to put your content out. You need to put out content that people want to see. Who's your target audience, and can you relate that content to them in a way that brings them to your product or service?
Right.
And that's it. Because if I were to show my metrics right now, which I will tomorrow, I have 2,000 something followers and I'm hitting 1.7 mil. I'm hitting on the other account, $500,000, 500K, and that has less followers than my personal page. And so it's easy to do this. And the biggest part about it, I'm doing it with no ads. Shocker. You know what I'm saying? And so when people get too caught up in methods or algorithm or, oh, there's no way to do this, organic isn't real. Yeah, 1.6 billion of those followers might be fake, but the rest aren't. Organic has to exist, because guess what? Your ads are still reaching somebody. They're not reaching a bot. I mean, they might be reaching bots, but bots are not going to answer back. So they're still reaching humans. As long as humans are on this platform, it's making sense for organic traffic, organic growth.
Right. So what is that metric?
Which one?
The metric. If you mentioned that likes, the vanity metrics, you're saying are the ones that we focus too much on, than the ones that we should really focus on. Because I'll show you. I'll tell you where I'm going with this. A guy I interviewed a while ago said, shares. What else did he mention? It was shares, saves, and comments. Do you agree that those are the metrics on social that we should be prioritizing versus the likes and the views?
The metrics on social that you should be prioritizing are call to actions. Neither one of those.
Okay.
Because even if a post gets one share, if that one person goes to your bio and doubles down on your call to action, that's a win. Versus 50,000 shares. If you don't have call to action set up, what does that mean? You have good traffic. That's it. That's what we're going for. Traffic. You know what I'm saying? So it becomes a numbers game, but only if you have something to follow up with. And so the main metric that I focus on is having an optimized bio, saying what you do, how you present it clearly, and then having a call to action. Click link to learn more, following the link, subscribe, or, buy course here, whatever. And you have something for somewhere for some people to go. Because you can get all the followers in the world, all the views in the world, all the shares in the world, all the comments in the world. When they go back to your profile, what do they see you as? How are you the professional? And do you sell something to them?
Got you. Okay. I'm giving you guys a free game here, just so you guys know that are listening here. I've been taught these things, so I'm just having them repeat that. So, Darian, I know people don't call you that, but we're calling you that today. As we come to a close, why should someone work with you versus another mindset coach? In other words, why you?
I don't care. It's why not me at the end of the day. I never tell people my why, because I don't have a real why. I have a why not. If I'm what you think you need, you're right. Whatever you think you need, you're right. And that can be a positive thing. That can be a negative thing. I know what I provide.
Yeah.
I got my testimonials. Yeah. I know the level that we can go to. If you want to join some championship shit, then hey, this side is we winning. Every single year that I do business, I make more. The other day I posted on my social media, I pay multiple six figures to my people. That's not what I make. I pay that. That comes out of my pocket. And so if I'm feeding my community, I'm feeding my people from what I do naturally. That's just leadership right there. I'm taking people, Dan told you I met him in this and that day, and we're still here. We're still here with another company. So things clearly have gone well. We're here with a whole setup. We're here with reach. We're here with presence. And that's what it's about at the end of the day. Like, there's plenty of other great coaches, and I would suggest them, but it's personality based. I'm not for everybody, and that's okay. Because I'm not changing for anybody, especially at this stage of my life. Like I'm very full of humility, but at the same time, I'm not playing that shit. You know, so if they can't understand that or get with the metrics on that, then cool. I'm not for you, and that's cool. I'm not chasing anybody for bread. I'm not chasing anybody for no money, no hassle, no anything. It's all good. Everybody can eat. It's not saturated. It is what it is. On to the next.
Well, I'm gonna tell you why I chose you. Transparency, authenticity. Those are the two things.
I appreciate that.
The fact, and you said it, and you alluded to it, you weren't pressing for it. I'll give you an example. So a friend of mine invited me to her church the other week. And I really just showed up to kind of support her, right? I got there and they're trying to like sign me up. Like they put me into this room and they got on me like, whoa. So I was like, whoa. I thought this is the house of God.
Yeah.
What are we pushing here, bro? Like,
Yeah.
I was like, I'm like from salesperson. I was like, yo, this is aggressive.
Yeah.
For this space right here, and that turned me off. I'm like, I'll go back to support her, but I wouldn't necessarily go back to that church on my own.
Yeah.
Probably not. I'm not saying definitively, but it was just like, it was a little much. And the reason why I bring that up as an example, even though it's a funny one, is you didn't present that energy like you needed it. And I didn't know your situation, right? So it's just like, I respect people. They're like how you said it, cool. I'm not for everybody, but this is who I am. This is what I've done. These are the results I can help you to get. In fact, here's my results right here. There was no wall of garden with you, so to speak. You were pretty transparent. And that for me was like, you know what? What do I have to lose? As you say, why not? Yeah.
And to just even add on top of that, what I try to teach a lot of the people that do become mentees and do, work with me is that we have a partnership at the end of the day. And that partnership means more than anything because I care more about my brand name than your money. I've made over the past 5 years over $10 million. My coaching package, I don't care. You know what I'm saying? Like it is what it is. At the same time, we need money to get to the next level. But if I stop today, never did another coaching session, never did any more podcasts, never whatever, all my bills are paid. Still. I could disappear. I could leave the country. I could go away and they would still be paid. And they would be paid every single month after that because I make residual income for most of my income. Most of the coaching stuff up front is me building something else. Is me building for now, I want to get a wife. That's me building to make sure she don't have to work. Then I want to have kids. That's me building to make sure they don't have to. But me as a single non-married male right now, I could go off grid at any single point. I'm building for the other people that I want to share this level of my life with at this point. And that's okay.
Right.
And so there is no desperation. What I try to teach people is we don't sell, we provide. Right. As long as you provide, you're going to find the people that need provision.
Right. Right. I like that. I really like that. Look at that. He's selling one without even selling. Right? That's oh, man can sell anything, right? No, all jokes aside, I kind of have a fun last question for you.
All right.
Maybe it's the second last one. I don't know. If you were being sent away to an abandoned island and you could only take 3 books with you and 3 albums with you, which ones are you taking?
3 books and 3 albums with me. I would take the Bible.
Okay.
I would take Cognitive Psychology, Standard Edition, Textbook 8. And I would take the Collective Harry Potter series.
Shows a diversity in his mentality. Okay.
Yeah. Because at that point, if I'm on an abandoned island,
you got time.
Yeah, what I want to enjoy myself. I want to imagine, because the biggest thing to keep me going on an abandoned island is faith and imagination. I got to be able to create and I can't do it with another person, clearly. So
Yeah.
I got to be able to vicariously live through stories and whatnot. And what better book than the Bible, some Harry Potter shit, and psychology.
I love it. And then from a music perspective, what albums you taking?
From a music perspective, I'm gonna take. Music perspective, what album am I taking? Wow.
They say the music you listen to tells a lot about your personality.
100%.
So I'm interested in this.
I'm trying to see which Nas album I want to take first.
Definitely a top 5 for me.
I want to take.
I'm a It Was Written guy, but I'll let you speak. Okay.
I'm gonna take Illmatic.
Yeah.
If I gotta.
Yeah.
Illmatic.
Okay, that's one.
I'm gonna take Get Rich or Die Trying.
Classic. 50.
And I'm gonna take.
I want to see if he's gonna be the typical New York guy over here.
Nah. I'm gonna take J. Cole.
Oh, okay.
Forest Hills.
Ooh. That's a good mix.
Yeah.
That's a good mix. So speaking of hip hop, I'm gonna end with this. Obviously, we had a crazy battle between Drake and Kendrick before. So I'm interested to know, just for my own curiosity or for fun, and obviously me being from Toronto, now here in Miami.
Kendrick.
No, I'm not going to ask you who won.
Okay.
Because I already know what most people are going to say, right? You're kind of delusional if you say Drake won, which a lot of people, like myself, it took some time, it took some time for me to accept reality. So before the battle, were you Team Kendrick or Team Drake?
I've always been team authenticity.
Okay.
And so whichever one of them came with the most authentic shit, I decided with, to be real with you, because I'm not a diehard Kendrick fan, definitely not a diehard Drake fan, but Drake does a lot more bozo things than Kendrick does. And so naturally off of that, I would side with Kendrick. But then in hearing some of the tracks and just seeing it, whether, there's a level of crazy truth to it or not crazy truth to it, people like Drake get held on pedestals. And I worked with a lot of models through the production industry that have been in multiple Drake videos, and they say, yeah, he's sassy. He's really like that. And so it fits, when you hear people work with Kendrick and do things with Kendrick, regardless of how often he puts out music or whatever, it's always the same narrative of stand-up guy. And so naturally I become who people's audiences are. And so that's just me in psychology watching from the backgrounds. Like, what is your audience like naturally? What is your audience like during this battle? What is your audience like in general? And so he has a naturally more favorable audience to begin with anyway.
Okay. I respect that. Well said. What was the best part of the battle for you?
Best part of the battle for me was just, I like the underdog ticket because
who was the underdog in this?
Kendrick. He was the underdog, 100%. He was the underdog only because Drake has had free reign. Nobody, the elements of hip hop, of what hip hop used to be, where people would battle each other, which is why he even put out what he put out. Not only, and this is not the first time, he put it out in what was it? The track where he first started shooting the diss out at everybody. Power, I think.
Yeah.
Either Power or One Train.
Control. Yeah.
And so on the Control verse, he's going back to the roots of hip hop. And I like when people touch on original kind of things. And so, J. Cole was trying to be the peacemaker and Drake was just collabing and everything. And the collabs are cool, but we could still have iron sharpens iron. Correct. Yeah. And Kendrick was more for that. Like, man, look at these niggas clicking up, whatever, doing this and that, blah, blah. Yeah. And it makes sense for the authenticness of the craft of hip hop. Like, we might do a track together, but I'm gonna also have a track letting you know what's up.
Yeah.
And so I like that.
Yeah. And I gotta say, that's what I enjoyed most about the battle myself was I love how hip hop is a combat sport.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like they brought out the competitiveness in each other. Then it got too dark for me. I had to like stop. I had to like go, I don't like, this is getting a little too much for me.
It did get a little dark.
The last thing I'll ask you on this topic, you know, do you think Drake's done, and do you look at him any differently?
Nah, I don't think Drake's done, but I do look at him a little differently because that's just how the art was set up. You know, there's certain things that came to light. That's just like saying, you would never listen to an R. Kelly track or, you know, whoever's track anymore. You got to separate the person and the music.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We can't take anything away from anybody's music, especially how it made us feel. That makes us hypocrites because we still vibe with the music. I may not agree with what that individual has going on in life, but the music is the music. I'ma still bump Drake songs. I'ma still, you know, listen to it, whatever. But there will always be in the back of my head, like, you got some stuff going on, buddy. You know what I'm saying? Like, is what it is. Not to the scale of R. Kelly or anybody, of course, but
some stuff's going on.
Yeah,
fair enough. I agree with your take, man. Listen, I'm gonna show up tonight. Listen to Aston Martin, him and Rick Ross. Bring the peace here. I come here to Miami, bringing peace, peace. Well, Darian, Rich, thank you for your time, sir. I appreciate that. So for my listeners, for my audience that would like to connect with you, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
The best way for you guys to get a hold of me, if you're tapped in through Corey Kareem's audience, is make sure you connect with him first. I want to see that you're committed to somebody and something first. And so if you're watching this video through his platform, commit to him. Follow his call to actions. You got to be subscribed to his YouTube page. You got to be tapped in on his post. You got to be sharing his stuff first, because if you come to me to tap in with me, I'm going to ask you for the same things. And if you're not already having that type of consistency in your life, we don't have to have a conversation. I don't want your money.
Well, there you have it, folks. And for the people that always tune into each episode, as you know, I like to end with this. Sometimes you don't have to hear anything new. You just need to hear that somebody else went through it too. So with that being said, myself and Darian, aka Rich, are out. Peace and love.
Clockwise.